All right, all right. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you happen to be in the world watching this. I'm really excited to be here with Jason House. Jason is an ex-student of mine, and he sat the SBL exam paper in September 2021. And not only did he pass, but he did so in spectacular form. He got an amazing 83% score, which is, mind blowing. And also, it was his last exam. So, he must be on cloud nine. And I thought it'd be really great to have him talk to us and give us some kind of insight into his experiences and the challenges that he faced and how he overcame them and went on to such wonderful success. So thank you for being with us, Jason. Thank you for taking the time. Really happy to have you here. Again, congratulations on your stellar performance. It
Yeah,
really was, with written subjects, there's always this kind of grey area, and you're never sure how well you're going to score. With numerical subjects, it's perhaps a little bit easier.
yeah.
So well done, and thank you for agreeing to come on. And you're now going to be a world famous star. There'll be people all around the world watching you and hanging on to your every word. So, how does it feel? How does it feel to be at the end of this long journey of ACCA exams?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I never thought I'd get there at one point, but I mean, here I am, and yeah, it just feels great. It's such a huge relief to know that they're all done and all behind me now, and now I can look forward to the future.
Absolutely, you get the letters after your name,
Yeah,
which makes a wonderful. It's a great boost, isn't it? So
yeah.
you said that sometimes you felt that you'd never get there. What was it? I mean, what were the thoughts going through your head? Because I'm sure you
So
were not alone.
no, it was actually when I failed APM. So I scored 49, which was
Oh,
even a bigger kick in the teeth, really. And then but I mean, I had a lot going on personally, so it was just, my head wasn't in the game really. And then I resat it in the next sitting and got 45, so that was even worse. But then I sort of had a bit of time out because we had a baby. So there was a lot going on at home, and we just moved house, and I thought, no, I just need a bit of a break. And at that point, I thought, I don't know if I'm ever going to get there, but I managed to pick it up again and sat APM in June this year.
right.
And then eventually I managed to pass that with, I think it was 60 something. So that was good. And then, yeah, straight on to SBL for the last one, which I've obviously passed.
Brilliant. I mean, the two things that came to mind actually while you were talking there, Jason. The first is that there are times, and we all have to accept it, when we are going to be distracted by other things in our lives, um, and it's okay. It's okay to take a break. But I guess the challenge then is, if you haven't sat for a couple of sittings, to get back into it with a
Yeah.
positive mindset. I mean, did you find that, or was it easy for you?
No, it did take a lot of effort to get back into the mindset of, learning everything. But because I'd sat it before, I sort of had a bit of knowledge on the area, but
Right.
mainly down to sort of my technique in the exam rather than the content. So once I picked up a new technique, it seemed to work a lot better than before. So
Yeah, I mean, typically I've, obviously taught, ACCA subjects for many years, and typically I find that students who earn between 45 and 49, it's not usually a lack of technical knowledge, but tweaks in the technique that are needed
yeah.
to get them over the finishing line there. So yeah, so glad you picked that up. So what 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 are you doing right now? What's your role at work professionally at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm an account senior, and it's quite a small practice that I'm in. And we just do sort of accounts preparation, VAT returns, management accounts, and I'll sort of have my hand in all of them really, and also a bit of payroll. So there's literally everything going on, and I try to do a bit of everything to broaden my knowledge and sort of know what's going on in each area really.
Yeah. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of students listening to you and saying, yeah, I mean, that sounds like my kind of role because, especially with a small to medium-sized practice where you don't specialize too
No.
deeply in one area, and you've got to spread yourself quite thinly. And that must be really demanding time-wise. How did you organize yourself to study sufficiently? I mean, do you have a technique that you used?
Um, Not particularly. That was probably one of my weaknesses.
Mm,
And I mean, obviously, finding time at home was a little more tricky when we had a little one. But it was just sort of working around the commitments at home, and work were quite good. So with APM, that actually gave me a bit of time during work to sort of get down and do a few questions and exam papers. So it was just sort of a bit of homework and a bit of stuff at work where they were quite lenient. So, but yeah, it was just focusing on the time that you had and getting done
right.
key stuff, mainly just question practice.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm sure you found that that's probably the most time efficient
Yeah,
use or thing to do, isn't it? Just do questions rather than sitting there reading the workbook or the textbook all over again.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, okay, so um, did you find yourself studying like maybe an hour a day or 2 hours a day or whatever it was consistently, or did you leave everything to the weekend and then try and do everything then?
I tried to do an hour a day, because trying to find a couple of hours on a weekend was even quite difficult for me. So it was sort of just an hour at night, probably quite late on, so 9 o'clock once the baby's gone to sleep. And yeah, just finding an hour and then setting myself a target. I want to do this question
Yeah, yeah,
within the hour and get it sort of marked and a bit of self feedback and doing that basically.
brilliant. So it's the consistency, even if it is only an hour,
Yeah,
with the young one at home. Again, and again, a lot of students, as I'm sure you know, are in a similar position. With
yeah,
young families and sharing that responsibility, but it is possible,
yeah.
as you show us. So tell us a little bit about your ACCA journey. I mean, how did you start out? What brought you to ACCA? Did you have lots of exemptions?
So I did AAT, the course in England, and I had three exemptions from ACCA, which were the first three papers. And then I had to do obviously the rest of them. I started, I think it was about 4 years ago, but obviously I had a bit of a gap in between. So the overall time probably would have been around 3 years, truly. So
Okay, okay. So that's interesting. So, because many of the students who, for example, come in through the university route get quite a few
yeah,
exemptions. And what I find with SBL is because there's a lot of assumed knowledge from earlier papers, especially, for example, financial management, um, they need some time to kind of catch up on that knowledge. So
yeah.
on the one hand, it took you a bit longer because you had fewer exemptions. On the other hand, I guess those earlier papers were fresher in your mind. Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, as I had studied them, it did help towards the end. Because obviously the last four you actually study a bit of those all the way throughout. So I did the tax. I did advanced tax as well. And there's another tax exam before, so it's sort of all helped really by doing the first six and building up to the last four as well.
Right, right, okay. So you thought about your sequence, did you?
Um, Not particularly. I think it was just an order that made sense. I think I don't know why, but it just seemed to work out. There wasn't any sort of logic, I don't think, to the order. But
Right.
I had heard of leaving SPL to the end, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. But it seemed to work.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of students say that to me, when should I do
Yeah.
SBL? What was it that made you think that it was the last paper you wanted to take?
Um, well, I think it just because it included sort of a lot of previous knowledge, and taking it straight after APM, there was quite a bit of overlap between the two.
Right,
So that kind of helped.
right, right, okay, okay. And before you kind of attacked SPL, what were your impressions of it? What did you expect, and did it turn out to be the way you thought it would be?
I didn't really know what to expect the exam, but I think it did sort of turn out the way I wanted it to. Yeah, I think it did sort of meet what I was expecting.
Okay. How would you say SPL was similar or different to, let's say, for example, APM or any of the other papers?
So a lot of the models that came up in SPL were similar to APM. So if you needed to use one in your answer, it was brought forward knowledge from APM, and you didn't have to take the time to learn it again, really. So
Right.
that helped.
Right. So that was your kind of time saving, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you find, okay, you mentioned models, so let's talk about models for a second. So did you find the way that you use models in APM were the same as the way you use them in SPL?
Yeah, I would say that they were very similar. I think if I remember in the exam, I'm not actually sure that I did use any of the models. But yeah, I would say that they are very similar in the way that they're used.
Right. Well, that's a really interesting thing you just said there, Jason, that you didn't use any models in the exam.
No, I honestly can't remember. I know two of the questions that came up were on strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And I mean, I just sort of used headings basically and
Right.
structured answers and looked at what professional marks are being offered and structured the answers around that. I honestly can't remember using any.
Yeah. Well, that is brilliant because a lot of students again get kind of hung up
Yeah,
on memorizing models and feeling that they are the key to passing. But as you demonstrate vividly, that's not the case. Yeah, the models are there to be used as a tool if and when you feel them to be appropriate and add value
yeah,
to the answer. Would you agree?
yeah. I'd agree with that. Yeah, I mean, as long as your answer is structured and it follows the sort of method that you taught us, then I think it's possible without using any models at all.
What you mentioned structured twice now. So what do you mean by structured?
So it's I can't remember. I think it was the three for each point that we made. It was the three sort of headings that you taught us.
State, explain, apply.
Yeah. So it was those three. So as soon as I got in the exam, that was what I wrote on the bit of paper. And then what I wrote was so what, because I remember that you mentioned that a lot. So
Yeah.
after every point I made, I sort of referred back to that and went, okay, what else can I say about this point? And go from there, really.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I think this is again what a lot of students, especially those who have an academic background, i.e., they're straight out of university, the approach is slightly different with those types of exams. I think you'll agree, and there's much more state and explain,
Yeah.
and much less apply in those papers. But SPL is fundamentally dependent on the application because that's what they're testing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How well can you use your practical judgment to the scenario? In terms of your work experience, how did that feed into what you said in the exam?
What do you mean, just my general work?
Yeah, I mean, so having hands-on
Yeah.
experience working with clients, working in a organization, did you find that helped or hindered your approach in the exam?
I'm not sure it had any sort of impact. I mean, a lot of what we do is looking back at what a client's done and how the business has performed. Whereas SPL is sort of what would you say? It's not looking back at how they've done. It's sort of what they're doing at the moment and how that can be corrected going forward. So I don't think that my day-to-day work really had an impact on
Right. Right. Okay, because that's another common worry that many students have. Well, hang on, I don't know. I've never worked on planning strategies with clients, for example. But again, you show that isn't necessary. That's not a prerequisite. You can get to think that way with the right training and approach
Yeah.
to it. So what was it about our time together that you got the most value from?
I think it was like the question practice. So I mean, I found that really useful. And then when you offer to sort of go through one of our questions, then I'd be happy to sort of share my answer and get that mark, and get some valuable feedback on it. So I think that really helped. And then you would tell us where we were going wrong or what we're doing right, and then you can learn from that to plan your answer better next time.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I suppose it's true of most exams, but especially true of SBL, isn't it?
Yeah.
The content, the syllabus itself is not conceptually difficult. It's the application in the exam context that's the key, and that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's and of course the feedback. The one-to-one feedback
Yeah.
is vital. Also, you were part of the WhatsApp group,
Yeah.
small group. How did you find that sharing experiences, questions, and so on helped? Or
Yeah, I think it helped, especially doing the course over Zoom. So I mean, when I stopped my studies, that was pre-COVID, so we were still going to classroom, and so it was quite a new thing to do it on Zoom and not have the same a similar experience to before.
right?
The WhatsApp and being able to talk to other students at the same time that were sitting the same exam really helped.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely right. I mean, we all miss that face-to-face experience, don't we?
Yeah,
And it's been difficult the last couple of years, but I think there are things that we can do to mitigate the effect of that. Excellent. So let's suppose I'm a student who's thinking about SBL. Uh, what what advice, what recommendations, what suggestions would you give to me? A, to make up my mind about whether or not to do SBL, and once I had made up my mind, how to approach it and the mindset I should bring to it.
I don't think it's an optional paper.
No, it's not.
No, so you haven't got a choice.
No, but
um,
whether to do it next or
yeah. Oh,
leave it to
okay.
the end or
Yeah. I mean, I think possibly leaving it till the end would actually be useful. I mean, if you are taking APM as well, then that's a bonus. There's a bit of overlap with the models. But yeah, I mean, I would just say that question practice, using the resources on the ACCA website, especially the past exams. So that's all I focused on in the last few weeks, is just going through the past papers. And even if you don't have time to do the question, just sort of planning out the question, and then referring to the answer just to see if you've got any of the points. That also helps. But yeah, I would just say once you've gone through the notes once or twice, then straight on to question practice, really.
right, right, and feedback and sharing and
Yeah,
all of that environment
yeah,
as well. Excellent. So here we are. It's all behind you now, Jason. Big smile, big smile. And why not?
yeah.
So going forward, what I don't know if you've had time to think about this, but do you have any plans or?
No, I haven't had a lot of time to think about it. I mean, I did speak to two of the directors at work, and they sort of asked me the same question, and I was going, well, I still haven't thought really about anything. It's been a lot to take in to finally get it done. So I was not really. I mean, just to carry on as I am for the moment, I think, and progress maybe later on, just to have a bit of a rest and slow down.
Yeah, quite, quite. Get back to living a normal life, Jason.
Yeah,
You
if
know?
it is normal.
Yeah, well, relatively. I mean, at least you have time for others, and
Yeah,
you don't go crazy every 6 weeks preparing
no,
for the next sitting.
yeah,
But yeah, so now you have more time to spend with the little one, with your
yeah.
partner, and it must be exciting. So your partner must be very happy too.
Oh yeah, yeah, delighted. I mean, it's been a stressful time for both of us,
Yeah,
especially during COVID. But yeah, so to finally get that done, we're both very pleased.
Oh, I'll bet. She's not an accountant, is she?
No, 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 she's not. She's
Oh,
not
thank God for
that.
that. Can you imagine two accountants in the same family? My younger brother and I are both accountants.
Yeah,
Dinner table conversation was terrible. but yeah, I mean, we often forget that our partners also
yeah,
kind of suffer with us, don't they?
yeah, definitely.
Because you're often not there, and now and your little one as well. How
Yeah.
old is her, boy or girl?
She's a little girl and 17 months old.
Oh, how wonderful! How wonderful! So a bundle of joy, eh, Jason?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, except at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, a lot of that recently, actually. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, it'll pass. It'll
yeah,
pass, like all good things. So enjoy it. And once again, thank you so much, Jason, for taking the time. I'm sure that everything you've said is going to be really useful to
yeah. Hopefully,
future
yeah.
students. Help them, think about SPL. And congratulations once again on your amazing performance. Well
Thank you
done.
very much.
All right, so I'm gonna stop recording now.
Okay.